All right, so 3.5, graphing linear equations in slope-intercept form. So first off, there are like, kind of think of them as like siblings here, okay? You have like one sibling, which is slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and standard form, okay? So we've already talked about standard form and graphing and that. That's kind of like, I would say like in every family, there's like what? Kind of like a child you don't really mind too much. Okay. Okay. You guys know what I'm talking about? You're like the kid who kind of gets in trouble occasionally, but not always. That's like standard form. It's the one that we use like a little bit at a time. Not all the time, it's somewhat useful. Okay. And then a really useful form, kind of like the favorite child, is the slope-intercept form. The only reason why I'm saying this is because I'm kind of like the standard form. My sister, the one who texted me to say happy birthday, she's the favorite child. She's like the slope-intercept form. All right. And then the point-slope form, it's like my brother, always gets in trouble. All right. Always gets in trouble. My mom loves him, but he's not that useful. If you're going to move your house, don't invite him. He doesn't help. Okay. So the ones I really talk about in class are the standard form and the slope-intercept form, and this point-slope form. It's there. I'll talk about it a little bit, but it's not that useful for us. Okay. So I just want to make you aware that these are the three forms of equations that we can graph from. Slope-intercept form, very useful. It's y equals mx plus b. Standard form is when x and y are on the same side and a number is by itself. Okay, that's the cover-up method. And then the point-slope form, this one is useful-ish, but it's not one we use all the time. So linear equations are just a equation that we graph that turns out to be a line, hence the word linear. Okay, in the word linear, you're going to see the word line, right, Jordan? See the word line, L-I-N-E, okay? So these are the ones that are vertical, horizontal, or in essence, diagonal, okay? So that's what your line looks like there. Each of these lines have a kind of like a starting point, and then they have a slope corresponding to it. All right, now that I've talked about them, let's look at this. So this equation here, okay, y equals x, this is the basic, most simplest equation we can have. All right, and this is in slope-intercept form. We just have to kind of pull our information from it. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we look at those forms up there, we had slope-intercept, we had point-slope, and we had standard form. Notice the y is by itself, so this is in the format y equals mx plus b. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, if I can figure out what b is, that's my starting point. B is my starting point. So this number out here is my starting point. And that's going to tell me where to put the first point on my graph. Now, let me kind of rewrite this. Y equals x plus something. What number would be right here? AJ, do you know what number would be right here? Is there a number there?
Yes.
Right here. I know there is, but like, is there actually a number? Did I write a number in the problem? No. So what number do you think would be there? What number represents like no, or there is zero? So zero, we can fill in right there. Now, what number would go right here in front of the x? Drew? I can't put any number. There's specifically one number I could put there. 1. So anytime when there is no number in front of it, we can put a 1. If it was going to be 0, we would put 0 there, or we would just leave it out, like there wouldn't be any x's, okay? So like AJ said, there were no numbers here, so that's why it was 0. Here, well, there is 1x, so I can put a 1 there. And we want our slope to be a fraction, so I'm going to write that as 1 over 1. Now, let me take this whole thing just so we can all see this. Uh-oh. All right, so let me break this down. Now that we've taken our example and we made it into y equals mx plus b, I can start breaking it down. This number right here, I said is my starting point. So I'm going to put a point at 0. Okay? This number right here is my slope. This is equal to my rise over my run. So in this case, this is telling me to go up 1 and to the right 1. So up 1 from 0 and to the right 1 from 0 is that point. Up 1 to the right 1. Up 1 to the right 1. Up 1 to the right 1. Notice I get all of these points on my graph. Now, I don't need all of these points. I only need 2 points to make a line. For the sake of these problems at the start, I would like to see like 3 or 4 points. I'm not going to make you put like 10, but I want to see that you can follow the slope. And then we just connect them. An amazingly straight line on my birthday. Okay, now, here's the thing. There's another way to do these problems. Say you forget, okay? When they're in y equals mx plus b form, I can kind of create a table. Now, Nate.
Yeah.
Can you give me 4 numbers? Like your 4 favorite numbers. Now, let me be honest with you. Don't give me like 42 or something like that. Remember, my graph can only go up to 10. So give me your 4 favorite numbers between like -10 and 10.
5.
Okay, I like it.
8. -7 and 2.
Okay, so what I can do here is I can make a table by choosing the points that I want. All right, so if I put 5 into this equation, okay, y equals x. So if I put 5 into that, I get y equals 5. So that's 0.55. If I put 8 into that equation, I get y equals 8. If I put -7 into it, I get y equals -7. And if I plug 2 into it, I get y equals 2. You can come over here and I can actually see that these points, look, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice that point is on my graph. It's right here. 8, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So do you see that how useful being able to graph and y equals mx plus b is? Like it was quick. It was to the point. But if you forget, you can always make a table. All right. So this says choose 2 points and calculate the slope of the line using the formula. So recapping slope and going back into that, Nate gave us 2 points from that table. We had the points 5, 5, and he had 8, 8. Do you guys remember how to find the slope of a line? Do you remember step number 1? Start with an L and an able? Label. So we're going to label our points x1, y1, x2, y2. All right. And then step number 2 was what? Write my, starts with an F, ends in formula. Formula. So that's already written for me right there. Step number 3 is, you want a hint? Starts with an S, ends in substitute. Substitute. So we're going to substitute in 8 for y2 5 for y1, 8 for x2, and 5 for x1. And that will give us 3 over 3, which you can see was my slope of 1 over 1. So you can see we did it right. Now it says find the y-intercept. That's what AJ told us. AJ said our y-intercept, our b, that point where it crossed the y-axis was 0. So you can see how it all relates back together. All right. Here, y equals negative 2x. So, who do I want to pick on? Kevin. Kevin, you can't not participate today. It's my birthday. I will use that all day. And probably next week and the following week, I'll say it's my birth month. Kevin. Kevin. You stood me up on my birthday. Who does that? Breaking my heart. Leon.
Yeah.
Leon. Up here, y equals negative 2x. What's my slope?
I'm not sure.
What's the number in front of the x?
In front of x is -2.
So that's my slope. That's my rise over my run. But notice there is no fraction there. So I'm going to make it a fraction by putting a 1 there. So this is going to tell me to go down 2, because it's negative, and to the right 1. Now, where do I start? Harshan.
Yeah.
Since we're almost birthday buddies. Harshan, what number is back here? Right here. What number is right there?
Wait, what do you mean?
Right there. What number would be right there? Plus what? Plus, trying to give you a hint. No, Harshan. Trying to give you a hint, Harshan. Plus, what number is that?
Oh, 2.
0. So my slope is the number in front of the x, and this number back here, if there is one, is my y-intercept. Since there is no y-intercept, it's 0. So this is my starting point. So this will tell me that I'm going to start at 0, and then I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2, and to the right 1. Down 2, 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 to the right 1. Okay? So I'm going to kind of draw my line, connecting my dots. All right? So I drew my line connecting my dots, and now I can make I can take 3 points off of my line if I chose, or I could pick any 3 points I wanted. I typically pick points like 0, 1, and 2, because they're easy. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to do y equals -2 times 0. Well, that's 0. Y equals -2 times 1. Well, that's -2. And y equals -2 times 2, that's -4. Okay, I can check to see if they're on my graph. The point 0, 0 is on my graph. The point 1, -2 is on my graph. And the point 2, -4 is on my graph. So to calculate the slope to, I guess, justify my slope was -2, I can take these points. Okay, I'm going to take the point 0, 0, and I'll take the point 2, -4, and I can plug it into my formula, which would give me 4 minus 0 over 2, what is it? -4 minus 0 over 2 minus 0. And that's going to give me -4 over 2, which is -2. And you can see that they're the same. Do you see how we're going to transition from making tables to just graphing because it's all the same information? And you can see if I take the graph and I look at where my graph crosses the y-axis, it crosses at 0. So that's my last answer. The y-intercept would be 0. How do you guys feel with this? Pretty good? It's pretty easy, right? Do you see how it's all the same thing? All right. Why don't you guys try one? Why don't you guys try example 3? See if you can graph that. Identify your slope and y-intercept. Remember, your slope is going to be the number in front of x. You're going to try and write that as a fraction. Your y-intercept is going to be the number after the x, and that's your starting point. And you're going to go from there. All right, Sophie.
Yes.
Sophie, what is my y-intercept? Where's my starting point?
3 or -3.
-3. Very good. So I'm going to start at -3 on my y-axis. And then what was my slope?
1 over 1.
1 over 1. And that tells me to go up 1 and to the right 1 because they're positive. So from -3, I go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, so on and so on and so on. Sometimes I like to do it till I run out of points. Connect your dots, and that's your line. Now, here I can take any 3 points to be my x values. So I'm going to take, let's just take -1, 0, and 1. If I plug -1 into this, I get -1 minus 3, that's -4. So y is -4. Y equals 0 minus 3, that's -3. And y equals 1 minus 3, and that's -2. And you can see -1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that's on my line. 0, -3, 1, 2, 3. That's on my line. And 1, -2. That's on my line. So you can see that that table and that line correspond. What is my slope? Well, I can take those 2 points from my table. let's take the points 0, -3, and 1, -2. I can plug them in. I can get -2 minus the -3 over 1 minus 0. Two negatives make a positive, so I get 1 over 1, which is what Sophie told me. What is my y-intercept? Well, that's the point where it crosses my y-axis, and that is, in fact, -3, and we denote it by the letter B. Sound good? Drew, you doing all right with this?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. Okay, so let's finish up with number 4, example 4. Why don't you guys get that done? I'll do it at the same time as you. Easy, right? AJ, all done?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I found my starting point to be 2. My slope was -1 over 1, so that meant I was going down 1 to the right 1. Okay, I picked my points of -1, 0, 1, and 2. You can pick whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. I plugged those points in. So I did -1 in for x. So I got -1, which is 1, plus 2 is 3. Then -0 plus 2, well, that's 2. -1 plus 2, that's 1. And -2 plus 2, that's 0. So you can see those points. -1, 3 is on my line. 0 and 2 is on my line. 1 and 1 and 2 and 0 were all on my line. I went through, verified my slope and my y-intercept. So I'm good to go. Now, as you can see, all of this stuff kind of relates to each other, okay? So now, moving forward, I don't really need to make a table. I don't need to verify my information with the table. So what I can do is I can simply just use the slope and y-intercept and graph my lines, okay? Remember, your slope is a set of directions, okay? Kind of think like you're in media. You're trying to tell your friend how to get from the corner of State and Olive to 3rd and Jackson. You tell them to go, yo, bro, go up 2 blocks and or go up 3 blocks and to the right 4 blocks. All right, your slope is a set of directions. So a line written in the form y equals mx plus b can be graphed without making a table. So example, y equals 3x minus 5. First thing I want to do is I want to make my slope, which is the number in front of x, a fraction. Now, this says the y-intercept is -5, meaning this, my starting point, is my y-intercept. All right? And this is represented by the point on the y-axis, 0, -5. So I can go to my y-axis and plot 0, -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I plot my point -5 on the y-axis. Now my slope needs to be written as a fraction. Well, my slope in the problem is 3. It wasn't written as a fraction, so I wrote it as a fraction, which is 3/1. That means I'm going to go up 3 from my y-intercept and to the right 1. So from -5, I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3 to the right 1. 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 Like I said, I like connecting them. Drawing out all my points really doesn't take me that long. And there we go. Bada bing, bada boom. Jordan feeling pretty good about it? Good. Angela, feeling pretty good about this? All right. So let's practice this one. My y-intercept is going to be 3. That is represented by the point 0, 3. My slope is -1/2. This is going to tell me to go down 1 to the right 2. And Jordan, you might be asking, well, are we ever going to go to the left, right? And the answer is no. Okay, I'll show you what we do when something like that needs to happen. So whenever something's negative, it's always going to correspond to going down. Is that okay with you, AJ?
Yeah.
So even if it was like 1/-2, I would tell you we're going to go down 1 into the right 2. All right. So here we're going to start at 3, 1, 2, 3 on my y-axis. Then we're going to go down 1 to the right 2, 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 down 1 to the right 2. Connect your dots, and there's your line. All right. Whew, there's a bunch of practice. All right, so here's what we're going to do.